It's another awesome, wonderful day to be recording. I have an great personality coming on here. I would certainly leave the introduction to him, but I'm very, very certain that this will be one of our really, really interesting episodes. So please stay glued to your screen. My guest or our guest will be joining us shortly. So thanks again to all our ardent the FitPod 01 subscribers. Thank you. Please share this material with your friends, family members. It's just the story behind everyone's journey that we'll be interviewing. So we have our guest on, and I'll just get him to jump in right here. Oh, wonderful. Great. Thank
Hello,
you.
hello.
Thank you again. Thank you again for agreeing to do this, Emmanuel. You're very
Thank you for
welcome.
having me, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will just leave the introduction to you, and yeah, you have the floor. Just tell us your full name, the what you've been doing, and yeah, just share some interesting fun fact as well. So you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Emmanuel Obeta. I am the director and owner of Nebest Fitness and Wellness Limited, based in the UK. I'm also the fitness manager in the gym group Bristol Avermeads, in the UK, where I'm located. I am a black belt in judo, taekwondo, and karate. I teach kickboxing. I teach boxing at the gym because my job is really quite physical. And yeah, I would say just generally, I've been into the fitness industry for as way back as 2011. So I've been able to rack up a bit of knowledge and experience within that time. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those really interesting facts. For some of us
Yeah,
newbies in the game, we definitely have one or two things to learn from you. So interesting
yeah,
times ahead. Yeah. So compact training, I should say.
yeah,
I've not really done anything combat. So what interesting fun fact? I did have a guest earlier who is a black belt in karate, but you seem to bring everything to one fold. So tell us something really interesting
yeah.
about combat training.
One thing about combat training, especially martial art training, and I'm going to speak from experience that I even had today working in the gym, because I just literally came back from the gym not long ago, working with various clients. One thing that combat training does for you, it really helps you improve your, overall strength level. And one most important factor that I'm coming to realize as the year goes by is it improves your eye to body coordination. It helps and teaches your brain how to properly coordinate your body in proper form. So, quite recently, I've been working with people who struggle with coordination, and with the use of combat training and martial art training, we are able to help them facilitate and make them understand a little bit how to move between coordination and how to coordinate their posture, how to coordinate their arms and their feet at the same time, and generally how to, be more expressive physically, teach your body how to do new things that you're not necessarily used to. Because quite a lot of us can be runners, we can do high rocks training, but one of the things about combat training is it helps you promote your strength, it helps you improve your self-confidence, it helps you improve your coordination. Because going towards the path of confidence is because you can see your body transform in ways that you're not usually familiar with. So combat training, I always mostly recommend and advise people, especially as you grow older, to pick up a little bit of combat training, because as we grow older, there's factors that get involved that we lose. For instance, the older we get, there's a high chance that we start losing muscle mass. So going into combat training can help you, build muscles, strengthen your bones, strengthen your flexibility, and also helps you improve coordination. Because one of the things that a lot of people of a certain age are scared of is the fact that they are not confident enough that their brain will be able to work in a certain way that they are used to. So introducing basic routines, like even if it's just boxing, telling them to do one and two, it helps them teach their mind, especially if they are getting into their 50s and 60s, teaches their mind how to stay sharp, how to move in a certain kind of sequence. When you say one, two, step forward, step backward, step to the side, teaching them how to force their mind, especially if they're of a certain age. And drawing from an example, I have a client who is 74 years old. She started doing kickboxing with me recently, and she says she has, experienced intense and very progressive cognitive improvement. Her mind is working a bit sharper now. At first, before she got into it, she felt it was going to be something that would involve heavy punching. And I was like, you're not a professional fighter, so nobody is going to be throwing any heavy punches here. We're just trying to help you improve the coordination, because one thing about people of a certain age is as we age, some of the things that a lot of old people experience are things like dementia. They start to lose their memories. So we always advise brain activities at a certain age. And as much as people primarily see combat training as physically hitting things and punching things, people who practice martial arts tend to have very high level of cognitive reasoning, basically. So yeah.
Okay, well, those are coincides. You definitely hit the the nail on the head.
Mm,
So cognitive insights and abilities. That's pretty scientific. So let's
yeah.
go with something a little more. Should I say the word is controversial? So for me, two things. I'm here. I am parent. I work as well. What's that flexibility like with regards training your clients? How does that work? People have like I'm speaking for myself as an individual and a lot more people
Mm.
who listen in. So I work. I've got kids. I've got all these commitments. Do you how are you able to get clients to get committed and stay the course?
That's a very good question. I was actually speaking to a client of mine yesterday who was a doctor. She's a kidney doctor, and she literally was telling me like shuffling between being married and having kids and always running to the hospital. She has literally no schedule at all. So one of the things that I tend to tell people is this: if you want to train, you only need to be at the gym within 30 to an hour session in a day. And the most recommended time to train in the week is 2 to 3 times in a week. I would say 2 times at least if you are a working parent or you've got a very physical life. So I tell them mentally, if you look at it, 2 times in a week will literally be 2 hours in a week. So you have 2 hours in a week. That's Monday to Friday. You have to just squeeze out 2 hours from Monday to Friday. And I used to make this joke saying, I'm sure in those 2 hours, the world will not come to an end. Nobody will die in those 2 hours. If you focus on that 2 hours for yourself. And if you look at it generally speaking, even with us that have kids, we have moments where in the day where we're most likely snoozing, maybe being on our phone or speaking or doing things that are not intensely demanding. So it's in that few hours that we have to squeeze that time out, because I understand how busy it can be. And I think this other question slowly transcends into other things like, what if you're not in the mood in that moment, or what if you're not in what if you're not feeling it. But then I always tell my clients, you don't have to enjoy training, you just have to do it. If you wait till you enjoy everything in this world, then we're not going to do anything. Even being Africans going to school, we understand how schooling was. We used to get, spanked in school and all this kind of thing. Many of us did not enjoy school, but we knew that we had to go to school. So it's the same thing that comes to when you prioritize your health. You don't have to like the exercise. Even when I'm training my clients, I always tell them, I'm going to give you this exercise. Tell me how your body feels about it. If your body doesn't like it, that is okay. Tell me, and we can always change it. So I think people have to create that habit of saying you don't have to like it. And I tell them, if there was a thunderstorm or a tornado or it's raining heavily and someone puts $10 million or $50 million out in the rain for you and tells you to go and get it, how are you going to say, oh, it's raining, I'm not in the mood, or I don't feel like it? You will run as fast as you can to get that money. So the same principle should apply to when you're taking care of yourself. You know, if you set that target, you have, let's say, 5 days in a week, Monday to Friday. You're very busy. I have clients that actually come to the gym at 11 p.m. after they put their kids to bed. You know, I make that compromise for them because it's people that are making the effort. Some of them, I tell me sometimes the wife says, "Oh, I don't want you to go in today," but it goes back to the same principle. You don't have to always feel like it. It's just squeezing. Because if you look at it logically, there's 24 hours in a day. I do not know how many hours is in 5 days. My math is not the greatest. But if you look at the fact that we have, say, 5 days, look at all the times we have, or how many hours we have in 5 days. And in that 5 days, you have to squeeze out 2 hours of that 5 days of that, and then just keep that for yourself and say, for the next 5 months or the next 3 months, I'm going to squeeze 2 hours of each week just to train in the gym. I do not have to like what I'm doing, but I know that as long as I know I'm doing something, putting my body through something, I will see progress. So I think, speaking from experience, I had a little bit of controversy with a client quite recently. I think there are also people that go to the gym and they've allowed their excuses to be a little bit greater than their desires. She constantly talks about how she would love to lose weight, or how she would miss how she used to look, or how she missed how she was in her 20s and her 30s. And I'm like, okay, we're here, let's do the work. But she constantly says, well, you say it's just 2 hours in a day, 2 hours in a week, but I have to drive from my home 20 minutes or 30 minutes, 30 minutes back and forth. And I'm like, you don't really want this then. Because if I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, you know, take that 2 hours, then she's calculating the time it takes to drive from home to work, get dressed. And like, but if you go for a pedicure, you're gonna sit in and wait till it's your turn when the shop is full, right? But you cannot put that time to yourself. And I always tend to tell people, I cannot want it more than you want it. It is not my body. My job is to direct you. And I told her that, well, all I can do is to help you. But anytime you really feel like it's time to go back to the gym, I want you to know that the gym is always there for you when you're ready to come back to it. But get in mind, it might be too late, you know? It's never too late, ideally, but you know how much you will have to start from the beginning. Imagine you get off for like a year or 2 years. So
Yeah.
that was one client that I actually had a bit of controversy, and she didn't like the way I was speaking about it. But I told her that you're paying me for a service. My job is to tell you, is to help you. I'm not going to try to make you happy, because if you pay me money to train you, and you tell someone that you've been working with a personal trainer for 5 months and they still see you at the same, they're going to say your trainer is
Yeah.
not a very good trainer. It's all going to come back to me. So if you don't like what I'm saying, then there's not much I can do. So I think the thing with when it comes back to the question of how do we make that time, it's just about bring it down to the simplest denomination. You know, I tell people, put yourself on a 3 months plan. For 3 months, I'm going to try and do twice a week. That twice a week is just an hour. Then the people start to calculate the time I take to get dressed. I'm like, who calculates the time it takes to get dressed? If that's the thing that you're focusing on, then all the best. You know, I feel like at a point in life, I'm not one of those trainers, because a lot of the time with fitness, people always there to babysit you, like, oh, come on, you can do it. If you can't do it, all the best. That's the kind of trainer that I am. If
That's
you cannot do it,
that's
if you
go
can't do
for
it,
it.
all the best, because you have to want it. You know, you have to want it for yourself.
Yeah.
If I cannot want it for you, I can. And if I want it for you, you're going to get frustrated because it's not coming from you. It's coming from me constantly squeezing it out of you and trying to bring it out of you and force you to come to the gym or so I'll tell you, you have to want it for yourself. If you don't want it, all the best, you know? And I think this approach has helped me a lot in my business because people know that I'm very transparent, very like genuine. I'm going to tell you how it is. It's going to take you this amount of time. Squeeze this time, put you on the plan, say Monday. Let me use an example I have. I have one Saturday, 11 a.m., Wednesday, 1 p.m. It doesn't change. That 1 hour is for you. Anything that happens, if the world is going to come to an end in that time, let it come to an end. You're going to use that to focus on your physical health. Because if you don't make it as serious as that, find out that you make excuse along the way, and then the time just keeps going. So I would say bringing that to the simplest denomination. There's 24 hours in a day, hundreds of hours, I would imagine, in a 5 day period. So in that 5 day period, just squeeze out 2 hours for yourself. If you have the time, 3 hours, fine. The least I would say, you know.
Thank you very much. I like how you broke it down into that's the smaller denominations as well.
Yeah.
Just of let me piggyback on your response as well. Is
Hmm.
there a myth around? Is it just me or combat sports or trainings? Even when you go to gyms, there are usually very few or little access to like a boxing what do you call it, the boxing what's that thing called now, yeah, the bags, the so it's even when you have to, because one of my mantra this year is starting where you are, making use of what you have. But it almost feels like it's a perhaps it's a myth that you're already disadvantaged if you want to go into combat training, because you really don't have a lot of options even when you go to some gyms. So do you want to speak to that as well?
So one of the things I would say about that, it depends on each company's business module and how each company wants to run their business. So, for instance, I work in a commercial gym. It's called the Gym Group. If you Google that in the UK, it's a commercial gym that focus on a certain type of people, if I can use the word, a certain market of people. There are also gyms that focus on. There's kind of like women only gym in my city as well that focus on a certain kind of people, based on the setting, the lighting, the artistic and of the gym. And then there are gyms that just primarily focus on combat training. So one of the things I've noticed in my own gym, for instance, before I joined, they were not leaning towards that angle of combat sport or any form of martial arts as part of the fitness routine. However, once I got into the company, I introduced that as a way to improve the system. And because of that, I introduced the kickboxing classes. I introduced something called a fit box class. It's a kind of like a fitness related class where you can move around and also participate in boxing at the same time. We also then had to get a punching bag. However, I've worked in the gym before where they absolutely did not want it because they were of the opinion that they wanted everyone to feel inclusive. They wanted everyone to feel, comfortable, or they didn't want anyone to feel, you know, like they were not getting enough. And also, it gets back to the fact that some gyms have to cater to the larger denomination of what their client base is. So, for instance, if the one at the gym I used to work in, it was predominantly more female members. And if you had like a punching bag in one place, there's a lot of hitting and smashing and punching and sounds. So some members felt like, okay, it's too loud noise for me, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that it also goes back to what the company wants to do. It would also go back to the fact that if they have somebody who is experienced to introduce it into them, they might be open minded enough to take it on board. So if you had a gym where, say, not a lot of people or that experience in boxing, even if it's for the basics, it would be hard to introduce that to. But if there's someone who even knows just the basis of one, two, hook, and straight punch, um, it will be easy to introduce that slowly, even if it's just the basics that you're learning into. One of the things that I would advise for most gyms is just have a punching bag, even if people don't know what they're doing.
As a
Just
minimum. Okay.
have a punching bag there. Someone hits, bam, 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 bam. It's good for their fitness level all round. However, you could find someone who is more experienced, and because he sees that bag, might be willing to come and be on board with the organization or try to be part of the organization. So, for that question, I would say one, it would depend on the company's business module of how they want to run their business. If they are a commercial organization, they are trying to get a certain amount of audience. And also, you have to understand that with business, not everybody is your customer. Some people do not want to hear anything about combat sports. Some people just want to come, do their strength training, lift their weights, and go home. While some people come to the gym primarily for the combat sport. I had people in my class who said the only reason why I sign up to the gym is because of the class. Since the class is done, I'm done. Because they can express themselves more, they find it more relaxing, they find it more engaging. And one thing I forgot to say about combat sport is it helps you develop a skill where you then have to work with people. You have no choice.
Mhm.
Um, Drawing from my experience recently, I've had, say, a class of about 15 people. You have to pair two
Wow,
random,
that large?
yeah, you have to pair like two random strangers to work together. So you could say, okay, we're gonna do one, two, kick, punch, and you pair two people. And then you have situations where some people don't like to work with people. Some people are like, they're not very good at working with each other. And then you have situations where people are even saying, I don't like to work with that girl. I don't like to work with that guy. Because some people are like, if you tell them, oh, do it this way, they're like, I want to do it this way. So I'm always telling people off, like, part of the things about this class is you need to learn to work together. There is no I in team. If you don't want to work with people, then you're going to end up punching the air. But if you work with someone, you can actually get to hit people slightly and then build your strength and your coordination because you have someone there that gives you that form. So I've had complaints about quite a few people, but quite recently I've spoken to them and they're getting used to it because maybe in their life they're just introverted and not very good with working with people. So one of the things that, it builds teamwork, and even going back to my training, personal training as a jiu-jitsu athlete doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the same thing. You get to pair with people you don't know, build connection, build friendship. Lots of people will come to my classes now are even friends out of nowhere. Just speak to people. Hi, how are you? How's your name? What do you do for a living? And then form like long lasting friendship from the class. So it's also a very good way to build like a community basically. So I apologize, I digress to that. But coming back to your thing,
Oh,
your question. Coming back to your question, I think the reason why not a lot of gyms have the combat as a priority is one could be their business module. Maybe the business plan that they drafted did not have availability for that, and could be reviewed if they have someone available to, you know, offer that program to them. And also, number two, it could just be accessibility. There's also be space limitation. They may not have a lot of space indoors to have that. Number three would be somebody qualified. If they have someone who is actually qualified to run it, to run that setting or that specific program for them, basically. So yeah.
I got that. Other question I'll jump on as well would be, what are your training sessions? How do they work during the cold months? and it almost feels like you can't have a combat training during the winter seasons, except if it's indoors. Do you have like a plan that involves training outdoors? Is there anything like that?
Um, so this question is specific to if you're talking about combat training or just training in general in the winter. So
Yeah.
combat training most often is usually done indoors. We have
Mhm.
indoor facilities for that. However, with weather getting colder, it's really hard to train outdoors, especially when it comes to martial arts. In the winter time, you have people training in the parks, and then you have outdoor trainings, which is works quite fine. But in the summertime, when the
Yeah.
winter, it's different. So we have more indoor facilities for martial art training in the winter. However, training in the winter as a whole thing can be very controversial. Weather can affect your mood, can affect your enthusiasm, it can affect your muscles, your joints quite differently. Even today, I had a guy come up to me in the gym telling me that he has issues with his ankle. Because one thing about being an athlete is the more you train, the more you get hypermobility and hyperextension of your joints and your bones. So basically, that means that your muscles, your bones can go like really, really flexible. And then once you start hyperextending them, because if you're a basketball player, you're always jumping and you're tiptoeing, so your ankles are always getting stretched. Basically, same thing with martial arts. What can happen is when the weather get colder, you can feel sore in your joints. It's kind of like arthritis, basically. You feel sore in the joints, and it can affect your enthusiasm to train. And for most athletes that experience this, once you wake up in the morning, it's gonna be hell just getting out of bed. So those kind of things can affect your enthusiasm to training or how you carry out specific training program. So I think that if your plan is to train in the winter, you have to create specific training approaches. So one, for instance, would be if you like to run, you have treadmills indoors that you can start doing to get your run. And thankfully, most treadmills have can calculate your kilometers, miles. Although it doesn't give you that scenery that you want, but then we also know that running in the winter keeps you very dehydrated because your mouth gets really dry with the wind, and then you also struggle to breathe just generally. So you might consider training indoors for your cardio, or you can also consider training outdoors, probably with mags on. They have training mags that kind of regulates your air, which you will have to buy. Otherwise, you can also still do your normal runs outdoors, but then you have to work on the pace that you can manage, because training in the winter, your cardio will be pushed to the limit a bit more because the air is really dry and it goes straight into the lungs, basically. So I think it's just creating a routine that keeps you mobile until the winter is over. But I would say generally when it comes to cardiovascular training, you can also have cardiovascular exercises and routines that you can do indoors without actually necessarily doing them outdoors. So yeah.
Thank you for that insight. I did digress a bit. Now, staying with combat training, um, I get this a lot. So a few friends of mine who run, they're always
Hmm.
excited to get new gears. Now, what's the on the flip side? You don't. It almost strikes me like it's low budget to get on say maybe perhaps it's my assumption to get into a jiu-jitsu class or a karate class. I believe you train barefooted but wear your gears. So would you be willing to walk us through what taking off or starting off a karate class or a combat training class, what is required, bare minimum, and
Hmm.
perhaps the extreme where you probably need more gears?
Okay. Thank you for that question. Thankfully, martial art is probably one of the most cheapest and the easiest extracurricular. Let me call it that, because I like to call it extracurricular because unless you're a professional fighter, you're a professional
Yeah.
athlete, it's just something extra you do to keep your body going. Probably one of the cheapest activities you can get into. We have ways where you can even train karate without a kimono. So a kimono is we call it, it was originally called a kimono because it originated from Japan, but when with time goes on, it was called a gi. That's G and I. But so you hear me say kimono more. So one of the things is you don't necessarily need a kimono to do karate. You know, you could do it just with bare, with just normal clothes, because then it involves striking and kicking. Even if you wanted to do boxing as an entity as well, you don't necessarily need the boxing glove because you can box with your hands. However, for protection, to protect yourself and to look more uniformed, if you're going to be training with lots of people, it's always advisable to get yours, and also based on hygiene. And if you're going to do jujitsu, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu as an art, there are two types of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. There is one we call the gi and the one we call no gi. So it means with the kimono and no kimono. So Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is kind of like, wrestling in a way, but we like to call it submission wrestling. So you're wrestling with someone, trying to strangle them, break their arm, break their legs. It works with controlled rules. So we always, it's kind of like call it grappling. So if you see it in UFC, MMA fighting, when they go on the ground, they're trying to grapple. It looks like they're playing like rats. But we always say Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is like looking for something. Um, so I apologize for that. Um, so yeah, we say Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is like um, trying to take something from someone that is not missing. You know, trying to It's just like Gidigbo in Nigeria. You're trying to
Yeah,
bring the
yeah.
person to the ground, and maybe after you bring them to the ground, you're trying to strangle them or pin them down. So I'm trying to take something from you that is technically not missing. So we have two types of jujitsu. We have the gi and we have the no gi. So with the no gi, which is no kimono, you can do that just wearing regular clothes. And you see people who do that are people who do like MMA, mixed martial arts, who do like UFC, but we have the one where you have to put on the kimono, you have to put on the uniform. The one with the uniform is more, I like that one more personally because I think it works more with your brain because you can literally strangle people with the cloth that I have on.
Wow, that you have on. Wow.
Yeah, so we wear that clothes. So they teach you ways where you can actually grab onto someone's sleeve and grab onto their collar and you can just wrap them like a gift wrap. There's a move actually we call gift wrap in jiu-jitsu. So yeah, so that's one of the things I like that one because it teaches you the ways to get around it basically. But then we always have the kimono guys and the no kimono guys who are arch enemies. That's one thing. We think the kimono is better. The no kimono thinks, oh, we're better than you guys. Um, but I'm always of the opinion that you will not fight a naked man on the street. If you
No
want to fight
way.
someone, it's gonna put it on the clothes, and as long as you're wearing the clothes, I can strangle you with your clothes. Um, but the one without the gi requires a bit more athleticism because you have no clothes on, so you can't grab onto the shirt. The rule for without the uniform means you cannot grab onto the sleeve. You just have to grab onto the arm. So with the kimono, for instance, with this, I would grab onto this to control my hands. But without the kimono, I'm gonna have to grab onto the wrist. So that's what makes the difference. So with the kimono, I will grab onto say with my neck, for instance, I'm going to grab onto my shirt. But without the kimono, I'm going to grab onto my neck with the arm. So the opponent will have to grab the head. So that's kind of like where it's diverse. So when it comes to the price and affordability, the only thing you probably have to spend on is just buying the kimono. And then when it gets more expensive is how many do you want to buy? How
Mm.
quality of what you want to buy. And we always have the issue with hygiene and martial art because we're sweating, and you put it on a kimono, it's sweaty inside. Because I always say one of the easiest and the fastest way to lose weight is actually doing jujitsu, because the kimono weighs at least 2 or 3 kg of weight you're
What?
putting on. Yeah, you can buy heavier ones. They weigh a lot. So you strap. So we wear that. We wear another one inside. And if you give me 2 seconds, I think I can quickly grab one that I have. Uh,
Sure. Yeah.
might be. Yeah. So this is kind of like what one of the kimono looks like, and this is my belt. So you just get a belt to wrap onto it, and then this is actually very heavy. Has like really strong texture. It's very heavy. So if you put this on, so you have to put this on. It's really heavy, and then you put it on, strap it this way, and you strap your belt onto it. So, like I said, with the kimono, you grab onto the sleeve because this is like really strong texture. You can grab onto the sleeve. So if you will have this on and you have like another internal shirt on, even if it's cold outside and you're constantly rolling and someone is trying to strangle you, trust me, you will lose weight as fast as possible. So we always advise like jujitsu is one of the easiest and the fastest ways to cut down weight, because the clothes, again, you're carrying lots of weight just having it on, basically. So, oh, just give me a moment.
Yeah. It's quite difficult to take off also.
Yeah, and it's heavy. The texture is like really heavy. Yeah, so it's not very expensive to buy. It just goes down to the quality of what you want to buy. And then we have the belt system. So this is a black belt that I have from judo. um, Once you progress, cost wise, once you progress, you have to buy a new color of belt. So you start from a white belt, which is a beginner, and then once you become a master, you get like a black belt. So you can use one kimono or one gi, and then you only buy your belt when you progress. Your progression will not depend on how good you are, how often you train, or it will depend on a lot of things. How often you train, how committed you are, your discipline, punctuality, depending on how your coach wants to grade, basically. So I would say when it comes to combat sport and martial arts of all form of athleticism, probably one of the cheapest to get because you don't need any fancy gear, you know.
Gotcha. So I'm going to. This is so. Here lies the elephant in the room. Hurting oneself or getting hurt by whoever you're sparring with, and recovery. So what's that like? I do remember you said there are laid down regulations or rules, and you are not
Yeah,
expected. So there's a drawn line. So do you want to walk us through what the lines are like? Because I could just walk into a gym, start the first training, and be so excited that I probably just kick on someone I'm sparring with.
yeah. Okay, so that's a very interesting question. We always used to say one thing: the most dangerous person on the mat is a white belt, who is a beginner, because they don't
I
know.
feel you.
Yeah, they don't know what they are doing, and because they don't know what they're doing, they cannot control themselves. So they will most likely hurt you or hurt themselves. So I think that one of the things that we always say is, and a lot of time, if I'm being honest, there's a lot of ego that comes into martial arts, especially when it comes to people showing that I'm strong. There's a research that says that men overestimate their ability to fight by 4,000%. So when it comes to a martial art gym, you have some guys who come in there. Yeah, you have some guys who come in there thinking that they can fight, and coming with that predominant. Can you hear me? You still with me?
Yes, I can. I can. I was smiling at the fact that you said thinking. They're thinking in their head.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody thinks they can fight until you actually are faced with it. And I think the more you learn martial art, the more you run away from fighting because you see how the things you learn you can see how. I always tell people learning martial is like having a superpower because you learn. points where you can harm people. You learn how to choke a person with their own clothes on. So literally with this shirt, it's a way you can hold it. You wrap a person around and choke them, and you learn how to pressure points of how you can hurt people. And now there's mixed martial arts, there's MMA. So it teaches you these things, and I think the more you do it, the more you even get scared of it, because I'm like, Jesus Christ. There's a way you can hold a person, and if you hold on for 5 seconds, they will pass out. Just 5 seconds enough. So you learn this thing, and then you like holding more than 5 seconds could lead to, the afterlife. So it's kind of the things that martial art teaches you basically. And going back to the question, I think a lot of the time it goes back to people being self-aware, but it's harder to for people to have that self-awareness when they're just walking into a gym with a predominant knowledge that they can fight. So one of the things I always tell people, if you hurt someone, that's one less person to train with. If I go into a gym and we're like, say, we have 12 people, right? So everybody merges each other 6 6 in a pair. If I am paired with you and I'm trying to feel like I'm better than you and I hurt you, you're gonna sit outside treating yourself, and then I'm not gonna have anyone to train with. I'm just gonna be looking at everybody with their partners. So that's why I always say, communicate with your teammates. They are your teammate and they are your friend. And that's why we say, with time, you build that relationship with them. Tell them, look, I'm just new here. Let's take it easy. Because I tell people, when you train martial art, you have to look after yourself as well. If a person is being too aggressive with you, tell them, I don't want to train with you. I'm going. You switch to another person. You have the right to do that. Because if the person hurts you, you have to take care of kids, you have to go to work, you have to take care of family. You don't want to be hurt in the gym, something you're supposed to be doing for fun. Someone's out there punching you really hard or kicking you really hard. So I always try to explain this to yourself. Sometimes it's more or less something that I tell people, you can hurt yourself anywhere. Just walking up the street, you can hurt yourself. You can miss a step. Climbing down the staircase, you can miss a step. So if you go into a martial arts environment, it is almost possible that you will hurt yourself. There's a more higher probability towards that, but I would say when it comes to martial art as an entity, there's more chance that people would hurt you than you will hurt yourself. But when it comes to the concept of hurting yourself, generally, you can do that free of charge on the streets anywhere without even trying. You could kick your leg on furniture or anything. But one of the best ways to come out to control and remove injuries is to always communicate with your training partner. Tell them, I'm new, take it easy. I've got wife, I've got kids, I'm just doing this for fun. And I have people like that in my class. There's this lady in my class that, to be honest, a lot of people do not like her because she's very fiery. And she makes me a little bit anxious and nervous as well, if I'm being honest, because people, obviously, because we're different people, our body express differently. I could say hit a little bit, but the person's natural body would be hitting a little bit harder. And not because they are hitting hard, it's just because the other person is not as strong.
As they are, okay.
My soft punches could land to someone and it would be really hard. But the more you experience, you get. So she's not the kind of person that would say, oh, you're hitting me too hard. She'll hit you back harder. And then, yeah. And then she says things like, if you hit me hard, I hit you hard. And I'm like, so anytime she's in my class, when I'm working with people here, I'm always having the side eye looking at her because I know she snaps all the time. And if I'm being honest, she has chased quite a lot of people from the boxing class because she's always, but I see from her point of view because she's a mother, she works in the hospital, she enjoys it. But then some people would naturally, not their fault, just how their body express, hit a bit harder. And she's in her 50s, she's about 54. So she comes there because she enjoys it. And she shows up every week. She's very regular, but she doesn't want to get hurt. So instead of her to say like, please take it easy, she's more fiery. That's just the personality. She'd rather go with you more aggressively than say more aggressively. So I was be trying to teach her that if people hit you, it's not because they want to really just hurt you. Yeah, it's just they are new, and some people that are new don't know how to control themselves. They don't know how to control their punches. They can't control anything. So don't fight fire with fire. Tell them that take it easy, or come up to me and say, "Oh, hi, this person's hitting a bit too hard," and I can switch you with someone that maybe is a bit stronger to that person's level. Because obviously at 54, I'm not expecting her to be like super strong. But if she's meeting, say, other women of other women of a different age class, they will be physically stronger in how they punch and everything. So she's not strong with her punches. So um quite to be fair, there was quite last year about August, she hurt her ankle in the class. She was just doing just randomly just missed a step and then the ankle just went, you know. So she had to, yeah, just and I was actually I had to go through like lots of paperwork to fix it, lots of legal stuff. She wasn't going to press charges anyways, but obviously because I work with a company, the company was like, "Oh, why are you making her cake at this age?" Or I'm like, "It's a fit boss classes. People want to work, but however, the way companies work, when there's anything legal, they like to remove themselves as much as they can to take less of the blame and put the blame on the trainer. But that's where the relationship comes with. I had really good relationship with her because she'd been in my class for almost 2 years. And then she was like, I could get injured. Same thing that happened, I could have injured myself outside on the streets. Because it wasn't like she was doing anything spectacular. She just missed a step. And at 54, if any injury is it's gonna be something big. So it just comes to the fact that you can injure yourself randomly, even just running. I have people who are runners who say, "Oh, I stopped running outdoors because my physio says it affects my knee because of the uneven position of the ground. It hurts their ankle as well if they're running on rocky beds." So with injuries, we call them sport injuries generally. They can happen anywhere. But with martial art, injuries are inevitable, but they are very limited if you have good communication with your training partner. Speak to them. Your training partner is your friend. They are responsible for you. You're responsible for them. You're not training with a statue. You're training with a person that has wife, kids, father, mother, who has to go to work, who has to
Yeah.
pay the bills, who has a very high paying job possibly. So speak to them, tell them, look, I'm only doing this for fun. I'm not trying to be Israel Adesanya or Conor McGregor. So just like everything in an environment where we have to work with people, we I make sure that people communicate um to each other as much as possible.
All right. So for me, this is a huge key takeaway: communication while training. Be very open to whoever you've been paired with. Very very important. But
Yeah.
I'm going to take you a little in deep here. Are there regulations around? Are there like frameworks around training? I do understand, like you had said, white belters are the most concerned ones, but
Dangerous.
as you graduate, yeah, as you graduate, um I mean, hearing you say how scary it gets, it's quite concerning to me, because I've been thinking of like an high impact combat training, and I'm getting concerns around not just getting hurt or hurting myself, but I'm sure you heard this, with whom more responsibilities are given, more expectations are
Hmm.
required. So, yeah, do you want to walk us through a bit of around the framework with which you train as well? That would definitely be very insightful.
Okay. One thing that I would say is just like weight training. I tell people say I don't I'm gonna this is gonna sound controversial and I'm just gonna say the gym is not enjoyable at all.
It's not.
Been
It's not.
train I've been training since 2011. Some people I think people would tend to say, "Oh, when you are depressed, go to the gym. When you are this," I think life have not hit you. When life hits you, You will first sit down on your you sit down on your couch first and think your life. You will not think gym. You first reason life first before you reason gym.
True.
So I think social
You
media
even
has made
need
people
money to pay
believe
for a
that
gym subscription.
exactly. And starting training in Nigeria, we train in the ghetto, just go to the
Yeah,
mechanic, get some flywheels,
yeah,
do that's how far I started, 2011. So one of the things there is I always tell people the gym is not as enjoyable. And the more you do it, if I'm being honest, the more boring it gets because it's just repetition. You're going there to repeat things. So imagine for me starting my fitness journey since 2011, see how much repetition I've had to do over the years till now. It's constant repetition. Going there, repeat the same thing. It gets boring. That's why I had to introduce martial art to it to give it a bit of spice. So same thing I tell people, if you are strictly lifting weights, you might try to join a running club. It puts a bit of spice into your training where you can get to meet people. You see your body do different things. You see yourself running 24K, 5K, which I cannot do, by the way. Uh, I think there's impressive people that can do it, but my cardio is more explosive than more longevity. So I think one of the things I say is it's always important to add other kind of fitness into your routine because it makes it more enjoyable. It builds a community. In my jiu-jitsu gym where I train, we have there are training days for men over a certain age. Because jiu-jitsu is very explosive. If you're a dad with kids, you're not, and you're training with someone in their 20s, it's can be intimidating because they are more athletic, they're stronger, they're faster. So we have days where we put it for men of a certain age. And the good thing is, for men and women of a certain age going into jiu-jitsu, your progression is faster. So say at my age, if I'm still a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, before I get to black belt, it probably will take me probably about another 10 years, if I'm being honest.
wow,
Yeah, because I started jiu-jitsu when I moved into the UK, so it's a longer process of a martial art. But people with a certain age group, it's going to be quicker because we understand that psychologically at that age you need something that gives you that boost, that self confidence, and seeing that you are a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, now you are a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, now you are a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and you go to home and the kids are like, oh, my dad is a black belt. So we've noticed how it helps the men of certain age getting into this martial art that have some level of progression. So martial arts varies. So if you're doing boxing, you can see the improvement physically. Maybe you're moving faster, you're moving swifter, but with jiu-jitsu, there's progression. So you get rewarded after every stage, after every performance, maybe after every 6 months, after every 1 year, after every 2 years, you get progression. So for me to get to the black belt, I had to do progression and progression and progression. So same thing with jiu-jitsu. So I noticed that quite a lot of my gym, we have a lot of men in their 50s, in their 40s, in their 60s, some even in their 70s coming because there's that reward that they get after they perform. And so I think it also helps their confidence as well because they know that they are rewarded. And in so many ways, even the wives are happy because you see the husband's strength is improves his strength. It makes him even a bit more happier, and she'll be more happy to know he's going out to meet his guys in the gym training jiu-jitsu than maybe going to the pub or going to the bar. And we have this feedback from most women that their husbands participate in our gym for jiu-jitsu and judo and the likes. But I would say more towards jiu-jitsu because judo is more like slamming people on the floor, and I think of a certain age you don't want to
yeah,
be doing that. When you're young and athletic, fine. Jiu-jitsu is more jiu-jitsu. I call jiu-jitsu human chess. If you have the time, you can look at more jiu-jitsu game. It's like human chess. So you have an opponent close to you. You're trying to find a way how to choke this guy out or how to beat this guy without actually hitting him. So you can take him to the ground and you're trying to swim around and move around and see how to beat the guy. We love it because you can slow the tempo. You don't have to be like aggressive. You can slow it down.
Yeah.
You have patience where your mind can work. And like if I grab onto his sleeve and I put it around his back of his head, he can't move this arm. So if he cannot move this arm, what do I do next? I can grab onto his neck. If I put it around like this and bring it around, I can choke him from there. It's like playing human chess. So we see how it improves the men that get into it at a certain age group, improves their confidence. And in my gym, I don't think we have any black belt in jiu-jitsu that is less than 40. Not because they cannot just award the belts. They can award the belts easily, but we want you to know how it means to really work hard for it. And because you're expecting that reward, it helps. I mean, when I got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, because I was a white belt, I was so happy. It helped my confidence. You feel that reward from it that you might not naturally get, and you're coming outside and everybody's clapping for you because you're making that progress in yourself. Um, Basically, going back to the question about exercise, I think that it's always good to spice it up a bit. I would tell people go into a jiu-jitsu gym. Just like I said with training, you don't have to like it. You just have to do it. Go in there, try one class, see how your body feels. If you don't like it, you can always quit. Like I said, I'm not the kind of person who says never give up. If your body doesn't like it, it's okay. Never give up on certain things. But I think that when it comes to certain kind of exercises, our physical component are built differently. What your body would like, my body would not like it when it comes to exercise. When it comes to mobility work as well, personally, just digressing again, I don't like deadlift. I do not deadlift. Not because there's anything particularly wrong with the exercise, but I think the risk to reward is not something I'm ready to take because the back gets rounded up. You see, I mean, there's lots of videos online. You see people passing out while deadlifting. They just deadlift a little bit and they're like gone because there's no oxygen going to the brain. They're straining themselves. So I don't give it to my clients to train because obviously there's a thing where if a client gets hurt training you, you can face legal consequences because you're supposed to also keep them safe. That's why they are training with you as a person. So I always try to get the safest option when it comes to training. And same thing goes with jiu-jitsu. You can try boxing, see how you feel about it, 1 or 2 sessions. If your body likes it, that's fine. Try jiu-jitsu, fine. If you don't like it, that's okay. But I would always recommend, if you want to go into martial art, one striking, one grappling. One striking in case you get to stand up with someone. It could be boxing, it could be kickboxing, it could be Muay Thai, and one grappling in case of the fight gets to the ground. So one striking, one grappling. We hope never to fight anyone, but I think I always tell myself and I tell my client, martial art is a life skill as important as swimming, driving, and any other thing you call a life skill because you never know when you will have to know how to drive. You might be in a way you need to escape something. If you don't know how to drive manual, for instance, you know, you are done. Same thing with swimming. We don't pray for anything, but if you need to save your family member or you need to save yourself when in a situation where, so I think that thing, yeah. So I think there are things that I call life skills. So that's something I think martial art is. You might not have to do it, but in case you need to defend your family, you need to defend yourself. Because the more you train, the more humble you get. You see how dangerous you get. So people who are always very cocky, they don't train because when you start training, you see how you can wrap up a person, or how if you punch him in the nose, or you punch him in the throat, or you punch him in the solar plexus, he will just literally go down. That gives you a level of superpower that you're even scared of yourself because, like, if I hit this guy and he goes down, like, I might face a huge legal process. So that gives you a bit of humility and humbleness as well. But then you are confident that if you do get to that situation where you need to protect yourself, you have that at your back pocket, or you need to protect your family, or in whatever the case will be. So I think I recommend martial art to everyone. It doesn't have to be full volume. You could try people. I would advise people to try different things. Like, what is life if we're not trying things? Nobody ever became a master from just waking up and knowing how to do something. You try boxing, try kickbox. If it doesn't work, that's fine. Nobody ties you down to that place. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Try something else. So I highly recommend adding martial art training to your weight training. Or if you're doing more weight training in the gym, you can add some cardiovascular exercise like running, which obviously is very good all round. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Now let's so in bringing this all home now, as we wrap up,
Mm,
what would be? I mean, you've said a lot, loads of wisdoms on gems, and um, I'm just very. So I'm just gonna, for someone who's starting off,
hmm
like myself, such as myself. I do train, but I've been thinking of martial arts, combat trainings, and the likes. How would you advise I approach it? Do you offer like virtual classes? Are there virtual classes that you would say, okay, for beginners, just start off with this for the next couple of weeks, then look for jiu-jitsu center, karate center to then take it
mm,
to the next level.
yeah. So one of the things that we are grateful for in this society now, everything is now digitalized. You can find information everywhere. You can learn how to box just virtually. There's lots of videos scrolling through your Instagram. You can see people teaching basics of boxing, how to position their arm, how to move your body, how to do this and that, which I would absolutely recommend. Some of them are trash, and some of them are actually quite good. The more you progress, and I would advise if you can get some of those basics of those videos. It's always good to get them, see them. You can get any information you want on YouTube, and you can probably get a punching bag if you if you have a space in your backyard. Practice those basics on the punching bag. Even Bruce Lee was self-taught. Bruce Lee never really had a training partner with him. There are cases where my coach used to say, all you need in life is the basics. Then the rest is left to your creativity. That's what I think when it comes to martial art. All you need is basics. Once I can do this and this, hook, straight, then it's your creativity. You have to ask yourself, if a person does this to me and I move like this, I can hit here. Person does this to me, I can move like this, I can do this. So your creativity is what happens. Because I always ask people, how is it that there is one arm, there's two arms, but there's Russian style of boxing, there's American style of boxing, there's Mexican style of boxing, there's even Nigerian style of boxing. You know, martial art transcends based on culture. And I tell my clients this because sometimes I have people that are very strange in my class who come to my class and say things like, oh, my coach does it this way, or my coach does it that way. And I tell them, go back to your coach then, because it's like cooking. If we all have the same ingredients, there's still a very high chance that our food will not taste the same, you know? And that is that why I see martial arts. We all will express it and teach it depending on our creativity, our cultural background, our knowledge, our IQ level. That's why you see, even when they put two fighters in the ring and both of them are throwing the same arm, one person always beats the other person. Because if there was no creativity there, there should be tie. It's just one person exploiting the next person's mistake. One person saying, oh, well, maybe I'm faster than him, or I'm quicker than him, or he makes this mistake and I exploit it. So that's kind of like what martial art is. So it would depend on the martial art that you're getting into. If you want to get into boxing, I would highly recommend, if you have access to a boxing gym, fantastic. It's always better to have someone who is more professional to put you through. Although there's always the cost part of it, depending on how if a person can afford it. There will also be the angle of how many times you want to go in a week. will determine how much you want to be paying for it. Or and also another thing there I would say is also from the angle of a certain kind of martial art. Say for instance, if you're going to train jujitsu, you cannot be planning how to choke yourself. You need a partner for that one. So with jujitsu as an art, you will have to be in a jujitsu gym. But boxing and kickboxing is martial art that I think that once you learn the basics, you can be creative on your own. Because trust me, half of the people you meet will not even know how to throw a normal punch. I always tell people once you meet someone in the street, they are the easiest to beat because people will mostly swing their arms like this and like this. And if you can duck under it, you can come out from the other side and smack them in the face. The person swing aggressively and you keep your arms up here, you block it, and then you can strike them in instantly. So it's it depends on your creativity as well, but you just need the basics. So most people go to boxing gyms um a month, 2 months, a year, and they quit and they stop because they learn the basics, and then they can get a punching bag in your backyard and you can help yourself. But with jiu-jitsu, it's a lot harder because you need a partner to train that one. So I would say try different martial art first if you have access to it. Boxing, kickboxing. I always recommend kickboxing to boxing personally. I have people saying things like, which I think is really daft, forgive my language. People say things like, if I do kickboxing, it's going to affect my boxing. I'm like, how does that even make any sense? Because people tend to believe that. But I always tell myself, if you can use more weapons, why not? Why limit
Mhm.
yourself to two weapons? If I have just two weapons, fine. But if I can use four weapons, one, two, and two of my legs, why not? Why should I limit myself to just two weapons? And if I only need to use my two weapons, I know how to use them. But if I only need to use my two weapons, which are my legs, I know how to use. But if I need to now mix all four of them together, I'm ready. So boxing, if you enjoy boxing, fine. Kickboxing, I would highly recommend because then you learn how to use more of your weapons. Jiu-jitsu, you probably would need a partner for that. So some people get into jiu-jitsu with their wives, so you get to like train together. It's a very good way to bond. People come with their partners to the jiu-jitsu gym, and ultimately you can have a jiu-jitsu setup at your backyard. You just need a mat where you guys can just kind of play fights and see how you can choke the next person, and you know it's just kind of situational sparring, we call it. But with jiu-jitsu, you need a partner. So it would depend on what is accessible to you based on your location, generally. Um, Using Nigeria as a case study, I don't think there are a lot of jiu-jitsu
Mhm.
locations in Nigeria because it's very few people do serious MMA in Nigeria. Morocco is probably one of the best countries as it stands that are very good in jiu-jitsu in Africa. But Nigeria has very good kickboxers, very good Muay Thai fighters, very, very good ones. But our grappling, we have EKO, I think it's a MMA fight organized by Usman Kamaru Usman, African Knockout Championship. Yeah. So if you watch that quite often, which I do, you will notice that lots of people who do really well are more, of the Arab guys when it comes to grappling because they have very good grapplers there. If you go to Uzbekistan and Dagestan, they do a lot of grappling there. So the Arab world are very good with grappling, wrestling, grappling. Nigeria were very good, very, very good with striking. Benin Republic, Ivory Coast, Nigeria have very good strikers. So, but our grappling, not the best. So when we face those guys, we already know that these guys are better wrestlers than us. We have to be strategic. So using Nigeria as a case study, striking would be very good. Get a boxing gym, get a kickboxing gym. Even aside from that, there are some gyms like Fitness that have personal trainers that teach boxing there. And you can get them obviously same thing all over abroad in different countries as well. So yeah.
All right, great, great. That's a wonderful place to rest on the conversation and
Yeah.
to think of a sequel. But Lastly, this whole getting hurt. I just thought about it. I'm thinking the audience would like to have some sense of the hyperextensions you had spoken about. Is there a workaround? Is there some way to avoid them, or it's something that typically happens?
Mm. The one thing I always tell people is the body is an advanced machine. If you do not use it, it's gonna fail you. If you use it too much, you will overwork it. So you have to understand that your body will not be um, fit forever. The more we age, the more we lose muscle mass, and our body changes, and everything changes. So one of the factors that I always tend to say is you have to listen to your body. If you're doing something and your body feels like it does not like it, you got to put a pause to it. I think only people that are professional athletes, if you're competing, if you're aiming for a setting gold or silver, then you can, you have to push your body to the extreme. But if you're just training as a way to just keep fit, extracurricular, you have to listen because you have to look at the fact that you have families that you need to look after, job. So listen to your body. And there's always alternative. That's why I say your body don't have to like everything. If you're doing, say, outdoor running, I know some people will not like to hear this, and you notice that uneven surfaces can affect your ankle. You can see a physio about it if you can afford it. Otherwise, you can always listen to your body because it will tell you like this place or this part it's not liking what we're doing. And then you can lose alternative like running on a treadmill. Running on a treadmill. So I think one important thing is always listen to your body. We have to eliminate that whole concept or that thing of ego lifting and feeling like we have to push. Because like I said, if you hurt yourself, you're out of training. The same thing with working with a partner. If you hurt your partner, you're out of training. If you hurt yourself, you're still out of training. So you have to listen to your body, listen to yourself. If you're going to train with someone, communicate. If something is too heavy for you, that is fine. Nobody is Superman. The more you keep training, the more you get stronger. Focus on things that are comfortable to lift. If you're looking for hypertrophy, which is muscle growth, you need to know the number of reps you want to be going for muscle growth. If you're looking for strength, if you think like some exercise can compromise your posture, like say deadlifting or squatting, you find alternative like dumbbell squats instead of squatting with the bar because of balance. So I think there's always alternatives that you can do to different exercise to limit the possibilities of injuries. Because if you do it wrongly, you're out for a while. And that's one of the things that I'm happening where I'm working with my 75-year-old client. She went to the gym and just lifted something that was way too much for her and hurt her left shoulders. She had to see a physio to get an injection to numb the pain because she didn't know what she was doing at that age. So then try to work with her to put things that she can manage and walk around basically at that age really. So yeah, I think we just have to listen to our body more. And if people that go through those hyperextension and hypermobility, I think one of the things I always recommend at that time is to stay as warm as you can. Easiest thing for people who have sore ankles is to wear multiple socks. You can wear 5 or 6 socks, keep your ankles warm. You can wear thermal underneath to keep your knees warm and keep your body warm, because the more we're exposed to cold, it gets into our joints as well. And the more you lift weight, you're exposing your joints as well. So we need to just keep our body as warm as we can. If we're going to be training in the winter a bit more.
Okay, great, great. Thank you so much for the time. I really enjoyed all the insights you had to share. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for agreeing
Thank
to
you.
do
Thank you for
this.
having me.
And yeah, it was a pleasure. Pleasure was all mine, or all ours. Just before you go, lastly, I we've done the introductions. Do you have a project virtual training you would like the audience to know about? Just yeah, you have the floor. Just share all your handles. If you have a training manual coming out, if you have one out now, if you just share something with the audience. I'm
Um,
sure
yeah.
they'll be happy.
So my Instagram handle is Nebest Fitness. That's Nebest Fitness. Like I've said previously, I'm the owner and director of Nebest Fitness and Wellness Limited, based in the UK. We run various kind of training programs, from weight loss training to strength training to cardiovascular endurance training to professional training for athletes and people that compete. Um, you can find me on Instagram, and there's a link on my bio where you can fill out a form that we can probably help you depending on your specific needs. Like I said, we focus on weight loss training, and we do online coaching as well. We have different plans and offers for people that are interested in online coaching for weight loss, for strength training, and yeah, we cater to various fitness needs. Currently, we are not catering to martial arts virtually, because I always personally advise to it's proper to have someone hands-on there to correct your forms and to properly show you. But weight loss training, strength training, cardiovascular training, we make routines and training programs for you to help you achieve your fitness goal in a quicker space, basically.
Just lastly, before you go, um, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do our subscribers get a discount if they reach out to you saying they've watched this episode, they want some form of virtual training? Would you be offering a discount?
Um, as a businessman, yes, most certainly. Yeah, yeah. I run
Okay,
different programs and different discounts. But once you come to me through this platform, most certainly I will be offering a discount. Yeah.
okay, great. We've got growing audience in Canada, North America, and yeah, our home
That's good
base
to know.
also back in Nigeria. So if anyone reaches out, just let him know you watched this episode on the Fitpod and you would like that discount. I'm very sure he won't be disclosing whatever percentile or percentage that will be, but
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk
just yeah,
business,
we'll talk about that. All right,
and
thank you. Yeah.
I'm happy to come again on the show if you do need
Oh, wonderful,
to speak a bit more at
wonderful,
some other time. Just feel free to
wonderful.
let me know, and yeah.
I will definitely do that. Thank you so much. And yeah,
Thank you
let's
very much for
let you
having
go
me.
about your very busy schedule. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was
Thank you,
we had
and
Emmanuel on the show, and he had all these insights to share. I'm sure. Yeah, just spend some time, watch the episode. You will definitely learn wonderful insights around combat training. All right, thank you very much, and
thank you
yeah,
so
have a
much.
good rest of the day as well. Bye now.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Bye bye.